Hello and welcome to Assessment Review with HRC Online. My name is Dan Wilbeck and I am the CIPD tutor for HRC Online. And today we're going to be looking at the unit 3C003, which is regarding core behaviours for people professionals. This unit is the third that's within the foundation certificate, and it really resonates with those that would like to create workplace cultures, develop talent, drive that organizational success. So if that's you, then you're going to do really well in this unit, and we have every faith in you. If you're not, however, don't worry, we're going to take you through the steps of all the questions. We'll be explaining them and we'll be going through step by step for you in order to make you pass this unit. Okay, so first off, we always start with our preparation. What we like to say at HRC is, if you're failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail, which is what we don't want at all for you. So just to quickly recap, at the start of your assignment, you're encouraged to plan your assessment work with your assessor, and where appropriate, you agree those milestones with them so that you can help monitor your progress throughout. Refer to the indicative content that it's included. So look at every bit of source that we provide to you in order for you to pass this unit, because we're not setting you up to fail, we want you to pass. And just make sure that you are supporting any evidence that you are using in your answers. And we want to pay attention to how that evidence is presented. As we'll talk about in a moment, we will have to provide a CPD record as part of this unit, and it will have to be presented in a certain way. But remember, you are in the people practice team. If you are not in the people professional role, anything like that, you're not within a role within HR at the moment and looking to a role in HR, you just need to put yourself in the shoes of somebody that is already within that realm. And of course, we want to ensure that the evidence is generated for this assessment is yours. So please not be using AI or anything like that in order to complete the work. Make sure that it is your own. If you are using other people's words, as we've said, reference that as we go along. Okay, so there is only one task with this role, and we'll talk about that. But the situation here is that this unit is going to be talking about the core behaviours for people professionals. We'll be looking at 3 areas in particular: ethical practice, professional values, and professional development. So this unit considers certain ways of thinking and acting, how we should be universally consistent, even in new and challenging situations, to promote a sense of well-being and inclusivity in an organization. So in a nutshell, that no matter where you are practicing HR, that everybody is practicing within that same realm, and we're all consistent to ensure that we're approaching things in the right way for us. So like we said already, we assume that you're in a people practice team. If you are not, put yourself in the shoes of somebody that is. And just for additional support there, we're looking at a medium-sized organization. So if you've got 50 to 250 employees, this is the type of business that you are working in this scenario. And with that being said, the people director here for these questions, for this assessment, is saying to you, so your boss wants to introduce a code of ethical and professional practice for the team. Everyone needs to contribute to this. So your part has been asked to look at 5 key areas, and spoiler alert, each of those 5 areas is one of the 5 questions. And those are in particular looking at the 3 points we mentioned above, but broken down here into 5 points of values and how they impact behavior: conforming with legislation, working inclusively, being inquisitive about the world of work, and being proactive about continued professional development. Right, so in terms of instructions, before we crack on with the questions, we have 5 tasks in total, or 5 questions. Each of them will need a written response. But remember, at this level, we want you to ensure that you are having wider reading outside what is provided. So if you are using other people's words, like we've said, make sure that you are evidencing it and referencing it correctly to expand and illustrate the points that you are trying to make, and just to have more of an academic argument. Also ensure that we're using the correct word count for this unit, and as provided in the brief and as well here, it is only one task, but it is approximately 2,000 words in total, your whole assignment. However, if we break that down, there's 5 questions to answer. That's 400 words per question. You don't have to stick to that because you may want to talk about some areas more than others, but it's used as a general guide for you in order to support how much you need to be writing. But please refer to the CIPD word count policy if you've got any questions, concerns, or talk to your assessor as well. Additionally, as well, we need to attach a continuous professional development record, and what that looks like we'll discuss in a few questions time towards the end. And this essentially is where you are, what you've done, how you're going to improve, but we'll talk about that in a couple of steps ahead. So without further ado, let's begin with the questions. So as I always do, what I will do is I'll read the questions out and then we'll break those questions down into different areas for you here. So as you can see, each question has an AC attached to it. And that is the question that you will be answering. So please make sure that you're using the headers AC 1.1 when you're answering question 1, which is AC 1.1, and so on. So the questions are, number 1, please explain ethical principles and how these can inform the way people behave at work. Professional values and how they can inform the way people behave at work. AC 1.2 is give 3 examples of how you as a member of the people practice team conform with the Equality Act 2010 or any updates, or regulation and law relating to ethics and professional practice in your own country. And then we have 2.1, which is please summarize different ways people practitioners can demonstrate respectful and inclusive working in relation to these 3 areas: contributing views and opinions, clarifying problems or issues, and working effectively as part of a team. That's 2.1. So what does that mean? Let's break them down. So we'll move over to our next slide where we'll highlight those keywords, mainly the verbs and the key points that we need to pull out in order to make sure that we're answering that in the question. So here we go. So we're looking to explain mostly in these questions. So we're explaining the ethical principles and professional values and how these can inform the way people behave at work. So for example, with your ethical principles, you're looking at areas such as honesty and fairness, whereas with your professional values, you're looking at accountability, professionalism, integrity, etc. But don't get too hung up on the differences between these, because often students are kind of concerned for tackling this unit, but there is very little difference between the two, and it's your role to explain that difference. However, professional values emanate from ethical principles. But ethical principles are very general. Think of them as someone's personal life values or just the way that they are due to many other influences, and apply to everyone. We all have them. They are how people behave and informed by what they believe as an individual. So ethical principles can apply to wider aspects of life, whereas the professional values are how people behave at work, which determine how we work, how we approach work, how this affects people's behavior at work, and so on. So the easiest way for you to remember the difference between the two is one's home, which is ethical principles, and professional values is at home. So, but we're going to break that down into 2 sections. So we're looking now at ethical principles. We need to take this question literally and explain what ethical principles are and what you understand this to mean. I've briefly explained that. However, you need now to regurgitate that academically. So you may want to refer to a theory that exists and what does that mean to you? Give example of these. Then you need to extend your response and explain how 1 or 2 of these ethical principles might inform the way that people behave at work. So example, we're looking at equality and fairness. How does this show up at work? So this person may have a concern for equal rights and opportunities for all, or stand up for something that they may think is unfair. If you've got examples, back it up. Ensure that a fair delivery of a service or allocation of a certain resource, or support everyone having access to a particular opportunity. That's just one way of many ways that we can interpret this, but relate it back to a people practitioner. And then again, the second part of AC 1.1 is regarding that professional values section. So again, you need to take it quite literally and explain what professional values are. What do you understand that to mean? You may want to refer to, again, theory. What do they mean to you? And then give examples. So extend your response and explain how one or two of these inform work. Again, very similar to the first part of the question. So again, let's look at an example. Accountability and professionalism. How does this show up? Does that mean somebody's working to the best of their ability? Does it mean that somebody's maintaining competence? Are we honoring commitments at work? Do we feel strongly about this? Or is it to this person's detriment? Do they say what they will do? Are they meeting deadlines despite any challenges that may come about from this? Or are we taking responsibility for a particular piece of work or maybe a mistake, even if they didn't make it themselves? So that's accountability and professionalism. But then again, you need to relate that back to being a people practitioner. If you can link how the two work as well as a summative at the end of your answer, then that's great too. But there's no need for that. Okay, and then we look at AC 1.2. So here we're looking at the Equality Act 2010, which is a UK piece of legislation. And again, any updates that have been added, amended regarding that. So it also mentions here regarding looking at, if you're not within the UK, then you can look at other regulation and law. We'll start again on AC 1.2. So AC 1.2, which is our second question. Here we need to look at 3 examples. And we're looking particularly at the Equality Act 2010, any updates or amendments that are attached to that. However, the question does have a second part to it. So if you are not in the UK, then we're looking at how this is affecting in your country. So if you don't know what that legislation is that's similar to the Equality Act, then you may want to start by looking at other accreditations for HR. So for example, we have the CIPD for the UK. USA has SHRM, or SHRM, as they like to call it. Australia has the AHRI, but not to be confused with the Dutch AIHR. Canada have the HRPA, and Singapore HRPA as well. So make sure that you are using something that you are comfortable with within your country, or the Equality Act 2010. So the Equality Act 2010 may be your best place to start. So how will a people person conform with these acts if we are using the Equality Act or not? So is there a delivery on service or product that is governed by equality laws? For example, are we influencing by payroll, training, recruitment, etc.? Any areas of HR that are being molded by these laws? Working in an area that particularly relates to a protected characteristic. So for example, maternity or disability, anything along those lines. Any demonstration of non-discriminatory behavior at work. So the way that people do their work or treat their colleagues, etc. So there's multiple ways that you can look at that, but we need 3 examples in total of how a member of the people practice team conforms to this legislation. Okay, 2.1, which is our question number 3. Here we're being asked to summarize. So this is a different verb that we are using now. And we're summarizing different ways people practitioners can demonstrate respectful and inclusive working in these 3 areas. which is contributing views and opinions, to clarifying problems or issues, and also working effectively as part of a team. So it's broken down into those 3 areas, and take each area as a separate paragraph, if you will, but within that same question. So we're looking at contributing views and opinions. So what is respectful and inclusive working in this context? So for example, respectful could be honest but tactful. We'll talk about more. And then the inclusive side could be recognize others may have different perspectives to them. Give a few examples and talk about what it means for you. The second area there is clarifying problems and issues. So again, what's respectful? Is it the person staying calm, non-defensive, non-aggressive in situations? Or what's inclusive working? So does this person give everyone a voice? Again, give more examples than just these ones. And what does it actually mean to you? Also, working effectively as part of a team. So again, what's respectful? So it could be respecting everyone's contributions within meetings, projects, conversations. What is the inclusive working side of that? Not letting someone be left out. You might be that person to include people in everything, even if they don't have anything to bring to the table. Is that good? Is that bad? You talk about everything from every angle. And give a few examples, but what does this actually mean to you? So there's the first 3 questions for this unit. Okay, so we're going to move now on to questions 4 and 5, which are the last 2 questions of this unit. So AC 2.2, please provide 3 recommendations for how people practice team members can find out about current issues and developments in the world of work and people practice. 2.3, which is briefly explain how people practitioners can be proactive in their ability to continue professional development, or CPD, using your own approach as an example. And the second half of 2.3 is this is where you present that CPD record as an attachment. So it's either in a form of a formal structure in the CPD record, so you can find templates of that, or as pages from the CIPD, who have a tool called My CIPD Reflections, CPD Reflections, or other appropriate format that's been agreed with you and your assessor within our Centre for HRC. And that's the second part of 2.3. So what's the verbs? What are we addressing here in these questions? Let's take a look in bulk. So 2.2, we're picking 3 recommendations of how people practice team members can find out about these issues and developments. So it could be YouTube videos, it could be podcasts, social media, newsletters, employment lawyer updates, websites, magazines, journals, webinars, articles, and even the CIPD themselves. There's so many potentials, but don't just say these are the 3 recommendations. You need to pick these out and identify why you're recommending them from your experience within the people practice. What is the relevance to this? Why does somebody in the people practice care about this or may not care about this? Why is it a reliable place to look? So for example, you may be watching a YouTube video of somebody that is not within HR talking about a HR topic. Can that be reliable? So that's how you base your argument. Okay, and then the 2.3, which is regarding the CPD. So there's 2 parters to this question, as I've mentioned. First, we need to explain, as it says in bold, how people practitioners can be proactive in their approach to CPD. When we're talking about that, we're talking also about ours. So we're using our own approach in this situation. So we're using the words for this. And then we need to support that explanation that we're giving with a copy of our CPD record, which we've spoken about there, which can be, you create your own style of CPD. It could be a table that you include. It could be a structured record, a formal record that exists already, or again, the CIPD tool. The CPD must include this pieces of information. 3 development activities that you have undertaken within the last 2 years, which shows that area of growth for yourself. Your reflections on what you've learned from each of these activities and how that learning these or going through this has implicated your professional practice or behavior, or could be both. Just remember though that because this is external from the questions, it's not included in the word count, so you can use as much or as little words as you want in order to talk about your CPD or included in that record. Let's talk about this broken down into the development side, as well as the learning and the impact side as well. So first off, the developmental activities. So you could talk about formal or planned activities, such as an events or programs. Informal or unplanned activities, such as researching online, reading a book, having a conversation with somebody. It could be work-based activities, such as participating in a project at work or undertaking a new role or talking about something previously that you've done that could be in addition to your job, or a task that you knew that would stretch and develop you. Activities might be in response to an identified performance issue that you may have, or a problem that you may just want to reflect on. It's because it's an area of interest for you. So, for example, we're talking about how AI is now more apparent within the people practice. So maybe that's a skill that you want to expand on, but why is that important? And so on. On the whole, though, we need to display that you understand the impact of the development and any kind of performance. So you need to talk about the impact that this is having. Okay, and then from the learning and impact side, did you gain a great understanding of more knowledge about something that you didn't at the start? So include that in the CPD. If so, how has this impacted your behavior? How are you, or is your performance different because of the learning that you have undertaken? Was the activity worth doing? Was it your time, the cost, energy? You may not have had any of those elements included, but in terms of the impact it's had on you and your behavior and performance. Did the activity make you aware of, or maybe just generate other development needs that you didn't know that you had? So you could be working on that AI piece that we spoke about seconds ago. So you're working on the AI piece, and then you understand that you may need to brush up on literary skills in order to input things into AI to assist you. So that could be something that impacts further. What conclusions did you draw from this? Any further activities? And how has this changed you? The reason that we go through CPD is to understand our growth on our journey. And as cliche as it sounds, it's all a journey in terms of our learning. We do it in order to get better. So let's look back and reflect. We need to ensure that we have reflection to ensure that we are actually learning and we're looking after ourselves and improving as people practitioners too. And that is the CPD record. So that brings us to the end of the unit. However, it's not the end of the support for this unit, of course. We have HRC bite size. And if you don't know what this is something that we go through each of the questions that we've just gone through now, but in a lot more detail. Of course, we can't provide that answer to you. However, we will talk about the verb in more detail. We'll provide some references as a good starting point for you, and even give a fictitious scenario on where we can help you with the answer. If you're enrolled with HRC, you have this included, so please speak to your assessor, also maybe on the VLE. However, if you're not a HRC online learner, then please contact us and we'll be able to divert you to where you need to in order to receive this package. So with that being said, That brings us to the end of the assessment review for 3CO03, which is core behaviors for people professionals. We've got every faith in you, so you know that you can do this. But that's all for now. Please do check out our other videos as well as our bite size, and good luck with your assessment. Thank you, everyone.